Hello, everyone. Corrie here, coming in to do the energy update for this week of March the 17th as we move into this kind of balancing teeter-totter towards the middle and the end. But we are moving out of Pisces this week and we are moving into Aries season. And I want to say, thank goodness, because the Aries, I am an Aries, and so this Pisces energy can be a little extra all on its own. Now, of course, this year we have it amplified. Of course, every year there's something, but this year it is amplified because of these retrograde energies and because of the eclipse season. There's just so much that's happening in the energy. Now, we had a void moon yesterday, and so yesterday was a whole existence all on its own. And this is kind of like, when you're deep diving in life, in the deep seas, you go down to see something at the bottom of the sea. This week has a little bit of a reprieve of where you kind of get to come up, and it's just long enough for you to take a little bit of breath, and then it's going to dive us into something new, and it's going to dive us down into like this depth again. And so there is like this depth of energy. Now, it is so easy to get caught up in the whole, the amount of videos, content, right? Like videos that are created simply for content and for likes and follows versus the sense of what really truly resonates or has meaning. Now, everything has some level of truth. Absolutely, it does. But when we move into looking at the context of things, is that we can see life, we can see perspectives. And so when we have how things are in relation to, right? So the macro into the micro, because we have an eclipse season, we can easily get lost in, oh my God, it's an eclipse season. That means everything is going to fall apart. It's like the world is falling apart. But bring that into perspective, and to bring that within ourselves, it could mean something different. So there is a lot of meaning, and there's a lot of things that are happening. And I just realized I got all my paperwork still out on the counter. It's just receipts. But there is this changing pattern that's happening that I can feel. But when we look at, like I said, I guess the language of this week is going to be about context, content, and perspectives, and it all matters. And this is something I learned from a dear friend of mine who is the word alchemist, Lisa Star Francis. And it's something you know how you know, but you don't know because you don't realize you're stuck in these little webs, these little traps, is that we all perceive words differently. So we all have these meanings to words, and we may understand language in a different way. And so if we use our words, we receive words differently, or that we're triggered by words. So one of the words that always triggered me was I, and I associated I to not just mean about the individuality of a me, but I meant selfish. And that if I said I wanted to do something for myself, or I want this, or I need this, is that what I would hear repeating back to me was, you are selfish. That is selfish. That's self-centeredness. So it would go into this self with a negative. So the whole content of everything that was being received within all was coming into well, you can't have that, so you need to change your thought pattern, and it needs to be about the we, and everything should be about we, and it should always be, you should never ask for something for yourself. And it was always something that I didn't realize that I actually had that I was responding to in a way that was not always a truth. So but it was a way that was an emotional response. And so I would emotionally respond to it in a way that was attaching to memories. It's like, well, you should always include everyone. You should want everyone to be by your side. You should make sure that if what you do for you, you make sure you do for another, right? Like if you get something new, then somebody else should also get something new. It has to be like that. Fairness, equal, and balance is not the same. And so to everyone and everything cannot be equal. And it is about being able to create balance, and that life is a balance, and life is about balance. So putting these things together in a new perspective of my relationship with I, and the breaking that spell around the I story I had, and then also bringing in a new truth around equal and balance, was that I started to learn that it was okay that I did things that were for me, or that I asked for my needs to be met, and that it wasn't selfish, it wasn't self-centered to ask for my needs to be met. And that when my needs weren't being met in one way or another, whether it was by me or it was by somebody else that there was this relationship with, is that I recognized that if I wanted to move out of and move away from feeling not safe or feeling like I was always in survivor mode, then I was going to have to either speak up or make some sort of changes. But something was going to have to happen, and something was going to have to change. There would have to be some sort of radical change, slow change, but there was going to have to be something that was going to have to change. And sometimes that thing that would have to change was going to be my ability to communicate. And that's kind of where this energy is this week, is really truly looking at how you are receiving information, and how it is, and how you are translating it, how you are moving through it, and about are you really truly getting what it means to really connect into context of, well, can you put that into context for me? Can you put that into context instead of assuming? So when somebody else is speaking to you, because we can be very reactive, is, tell me what you mean by that. What do you mean by that? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you? Can you tell me what that means for you? Because I know what it means for me, and I don't want to assume that that's what it means for you. Or can you put that into context? Can you give me an understanding that is relatable? And so recognizing that, but also recognizing words and how you are triggered by words, because words are simply words. And so it goes all the way back to how you read a text. When you read a text or any writing, any message written anywhere, you are reading words. That you are reading words. And when you're reading words, the only person adding emotion to it is yourself. That's your emotions. When you go, well, this is what they wrote to me, and you give it like an expression. So that expression, that emotional expression you're giving, that's not coming from the other side. That's coming from you. And so whenever you see these, it's like you're repeating a text or repeating words, is that you are giving it energy, and you are providing the energy to it. And when you're providing energy to it, you are bringing it to life. And when you bring it to life, it then becomes real. It comes to life. You're now breathing life into it. And so we have all of this complexity that has kind of, it's really interfered, and it's had such an influence up on us. And most of it is coming from emotions, and most of it is coming from our inability to understand, even though we think we understand, the power of words, the power of energy, the power of our thoughts, and how we have so much content that is now absorbed within us that we are overloaded. So it's like a switchboard, and we are overloaded. We have too much going on, and we have too much happening. And this week's energy is kind of saying to us, maybe before you move into next week, maybe before you go into even Pisces season, maybe it's time to unpack some of this. Maybe it's time to start asking questions. Maybe it's time to start asking ourselves, is that really a truth? Is that really my truth? Is that how I really feel? Is that really what I think? Is that, or is this, where's this thought process coming from? Where am I getting this thought process from? There's just such an opportunity this week to make a change in your life. And that change begins with how we view, how we see things, how we show up, and how we begin to emotionally and spiritually mature and grow. And so there is the opportunity this week to really truly step into growth, development, self-realization, self-actualization, that radical self-truth that we begin to tell ourselves. Everyone else and everything else is not really our problem. And if we were to put our life into context, if we were to be able to tell the story, to give people an opportunity to understand by adding context to the content, maybe the perspective would change. Adding context to the content could truly change perspectives. And it's a good time to really, truly bring those three things together. And when we bring those three things together, those three things alone can begin to change how we are showing up and how we're revealing these versions of ourselves to ourselves and to the world. And when we no longer feel a certain way, which ties us into the last message that I thought, we're not feeling it, it's not about a feeling, it's a belief. And there's a big difference between a feeling and a belief. And so how we get caught in the sense of, well, this is how I feel. No, this is what you believe. This is the belief you've built around something. And now this week, we're working with the power of words. And so this week, we are working with content, perception, right? Adding context to content so that we can really get a new perspective, the possibility of a new perspective, so that we can see, feel, sense things differently, and recognizing that maybe we've built a real weak foundation on half-ass beliefs, and that these are half-ass truths that are creating belief systems that are spreading like wildfire, but it doesn't mean that it has a truth. And so there's a complexity. There's like this tanglement that is untangling. It's like all these threads in our tapestry of life have all been tangled up, and it hasn't been cared for the way it needs to be cared for. And so in this tapestry of life, and we are the threads, is that if we start to untangle the threads and start to care for the tapestry properly, start to put a lot of care and a lot of love and a lot of attention into detail, and not just like bundle it up and not caring, that we see the worth, we see the value, and that as a general rule, the human race, as the humans, if we can see the value, we can see the purpose of people, of our community, of the people around us, is that we all truly matter. And all of this is moving us into this sense of the power of discernment and the power of dignity. And this month is really, truly teaching us about dignity. This month is teaching us about what the true essence of bring context to the content around dignity. And we're going to see things differently. We're going to open up to new perspectives, that it is so easy to really, truly turn like friends into enemies. I've always keep saying this, but to be able to look at things in a new light. It's the same thing when somebody is very unkind, very cruel, but yet you can stay in that relationship and convince yourself, because you so-called love them, that you can convince yourself that this is a good, safe place for me to be. I'm happy here. But you're none of the above. Is that you have convinced yourself that this is the lesser of all the evils. So it's the best place of all the places I could be, because I'm comfortable in the uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, but I don't want to hurt this other person. I don't want them to ever feel like they're, that little broken little boy or girl or whatever it is. But it's like, so you're showing them dignity, but yet there is no dignity being shown back. And so this is where the sense of, but you're not showing yourself the dignity to be able to stand up in that sense of, I am worthy, I am valuable. And so if you add context to the I story, and you look at to the content of all of this story, is that you start to be able to extract a new truth. And when you can tell yourself a new truth, and I am taking it to an extreme case, of course, because it's like this is happening in the littlest minute areas in our lives. And this energy has given us an opportunity to return to dignity, to find our way back to what that means and what that looks like in the human aspect of things, what it looks like in how we show up, and how we lose ourselves being so angry outside of ourselves that we stop caring for and nurturing what is most valuable and important within us. And so my healing of the I took me down the journey of recognizing the little I and the big I. And so the big I really truly came with that studying, with that real stepping into samadhi and recognizing the I and how powerful the I was. And that every time I would discount myself in any way, is that I was not showing dignity, and I was not being dignified in my thoughts of the big I. And so to be dignified in our character, to be dignified in our thoughts, to be dignified in how we show up, how we respect ourselves, how we respect others, how we love, how we show love, how we show kindness, how we show compassion. And so to live and find our way back into this dignified self is an empowered state of being, and it is a virtue. And so the message and where they're bringing all of this is to find our way back into moving beyond the vices and find our way into the virtue. And as we find our way back into a more sense of the virtuous self, and I keep saying there's a light coming that is so hard to see, because the world we are being tested, we're being challenged, but there is a powerful influence and a powerful change. The end of March, whatever is going to unfold, it's going to be probably catastrophic in some way, which means it could come with big endings. It's going to come with maybe some big changes. It could come in big ways, but how that happens, we are not yet to know. So we can see the possibility of things because of the past. So it's just like then add an emotion, and it's like this could happen and that could happen. And yeah, I do have predictions, and there's things that are revealing itself. But if we were to look at how all of this alignment, how all of these planets are going to be so intertwined, and how this retrograde ends in Pisces, And even though we're going to be in an airy season, it is going to be like the water that falls in on top of the fire. And it's like it dampens, it puts the flame out, and it kind of puts out the fire. So there is a fire that has been burning. There is something that has been, I mean, we see it on a world scale, but there's something that happens, and this takes me back to spirodynamics. Spirodynamics reveals itself, and the collective consciousness always shows the repeat in patterns. And that we are on our way to a repeat in a pattern somehow, but the pattern and the chain can change and be broken. It's how it reveals itself is what's going to be different. And so it is moving from the we, and it's the energy that's going to move us from the we consciousness, and it's going to bring in the I consciousness. And so if we want to move into the dignified aspect of this energy coming at the end of the month, it's really important to begin to move into the sense of the I. And being a part of the I means being on the right side with the divine. And when we get on the right side with the divine, get on the right side with the sense of, it's not mine to decide. It's not up to me to decide what is right, what is wrong. It's not up for me to decide, if this person is right or this person's wrong. It's like, do I like what somebody is doing? Probably not. Would I call them the devil, evil? No, because that is creating a belief and a narrative around that. And if that shit spreads like wildfire, right? And so there has been this spreading of wildfire. And this divine expression really, truly invites us now, like we're being given the heads up to, you know what? Get away from the crowd. Whatever it is, get away from the crowd. If everyone is going this way, go that way. Don't get lost in everything that is taking place, because you don't want to be on the side that has to, in one way or the other, be accountable, to somehow be responsible for spreading all of this energy that is not coming from the energy it's not universal energy. It is human energy. It is the collective consciousness energy. And if we want to change collective consciousness, is that we have to change it within ourselves, inside of us, before it can be changed in the world. And it all begins with us. If we want collective consciousness to change, we have to find our way back into the virtuous self, and to really look at our own vices and how we are convincing ourselves that our vices are our virtues, but it's not really. And so that is where we come into healing and the healing work. And there could be no better time than really, truly right now in this moment to really look at the shadow aspect, to look at the rise of the shadow, to look at our unresolved, our unhealed, to really add context to content, right? Like to really add the context to the content that really makes the perceptions more relatable, that you can see all sides of things. Reveal all sides of things. Don't just give me this side or that side. Tell me all sides of things, and then I will decide for myself. If all I'm getting is one side of things, how do I know what's my truth? Show me all sides of things. And when you're courageous enough to say, I'm ready to see all sides of things, I'm ready to see all of me, I'm ready to see my good, my bad, my ugly, I'm ready to see what triggers me. I'm ready to see how I react, how I respond. I'm ready to see my own bullshit stories that keeps me in places I shouldn't be. I'm ready to see how I contribute to my own pain stories, to my own struggling, to my own suffering, to my own misery, right? Pain is real. Misery becomes the choice when we continue and we choose not to leave the pain stories behind, but to exist them. These are all lower expressions. And when we exist and we stay in those lower expressions, that's where we begin to live. That's why I wrote these books, is that these books were all the journey through. Now, they're not the only books. There is more books. There's a lot more books. They're just not all out yet. And it was the way back to becoming. So there is, on the end of this journey, the ability to become, but what are we becoming? And so adding context to becoming, by adding context to all the content that we have, it helps people to understand it a little bit more. And so to be able to stand in our truth, to be able to be honest with ourselves, to be able to move from the tribal, or from the activist, or from this energy where everything and everyone begins to think alike, or that if we're in one line of work, we should all be alike, or we should all believe the same thing, we should all be there, and moving and stepping away. And it takes a lot of spiritual courage to move out of bravery, to be brave, and to be given a sword, to be given weapons, and to be given knowledge that it becomes that weapon of destruction. I can destroy you with the knowledge that I have, and say, okay, maybe my knowledge all came from opinions and it's not all true. If we were to take off the protection, take off the armor, move all the things that protect us away, and stand up alone and just say, okay, there is more to this. And I don't want to be stuck in this. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to be trapped in this no more. I don't want to be there no more. I don't want to be in this unhealthy state within myself. I don't want to exist in this mindset. I don't want to be there. I'm going to allow spiritual courage to strip it all down so that I can move forward. I'm going to step into dignity and to live in the dignified way. And dignified brings us to sanctified. And that's a little more out there, but that's what I'm getting. I'm getting the rolling here. And we're rolling through something. And there's something that is unfolding. And as painful as this energy can feel, is that there is this thought of if we were to move out and to move away from the masses, move away from the clutter and the chaos and the millions of voices inside that tell us we're not enough. Many of the thoughts of others that became little tiny voices that don't really matter anymore. And we begin to listen to the one big voice, the one that's the whisper. And the whisper is often the truth. The quietest one in the room is usually the one that's the wisest, because that's the voice of the soul, the higher expression. And when we can get into this higher expression of ourselves, that's where we begin to see the change. And so there is a movement of this energy, and we're moving through. And of course, next week is going to take us down a whole nother level. And we're moving through again, and we're dropping in again. And so we're up for air, we're going back down again, and we're moving into like a whole nother time. So it can be very exhausting, but this is, like I said, and I've been saying this for weeks, as much as there is this like powerful, feels like, are we ever going to, this, it's like, was I even ever getting ahead? Is that in all of that energy is also this amazing divine expression. And I feel the presence, I feel the energy, I feel the power, I know where this comes from. I know this voice of source, creator, God, divine, angels, ascendant masters, higher self. It is all communicating. It is all speaking. It all has a deeper, deeper truth. I just had to pause. And so kind of ending where I just was, because I lost my space. But in the sense of the divine and feeling this divine expression, is that I do know and do feel and do sense and this strong connection and of where this information comes from, and knowing that it's coming from that higher level of consciousness, that beyond our own mind, beyond this lower expressions, beyond even our higher expression, beyond all of that, there is a level of authenticity and rawness and real truth that also, it's like, it can be rugged, it can feel wild, it can feel crazy, but there is also divine love. And in that is where divine love is. Divine love doesn't make us feel safe, the sense it doesn't make us feel comfortable. It kind of is the energy that gives us the push. And that push is dignity, to live dignified, and to live in the sense of the most dignified thing that we can do is to do the right things for the right reasons. And that right things for the right reasons sometimes, and more often means choosing to walk away and walk a path that doesn't fit into the status quo. It doesn't fit into fitting in. It doesn't always make other people feel comfortable. It doesn't make shitty behavior okay anymore. It calls up and out, and it puts accountability and responsibility back where it belongs, and it brings it back to us, and it brings it into us. And if we were to add the context to the content of the story in our minds, is that you may have a new narrative, a new perspective. You may be able to see all the way around and to see things differently. If we were to look at it in the way of we are existing in a ball, floating in the universe, and that we are out here and we're not on some stable ground, and that this is only one reality. There's your reality that you tell yourself is only one reality, and there's many more realities. So if there is an unhealthy space, if you tell yourself over and over, it's like, oh well, there's no one who loves me. It's like, okay, let's look at this from the outside looking in. Let's become an observer of this. Is it that nobody loves me? Or is it that I don't love myself because the people that I expected to, or that should have treated me or loved me the way that I needed to be loved, are the same people who call me down or selfish or push me away because I asked for those needs to be met, and I stopped asking, and I became a total small I. I went into survival, became super independent, but then in between that, I kept attracting people who had no idea how to love, because I was always going to save them, try to save that person, because my reflection or my image or my thoughts are always based around that version of me that didn't get the love. So now I'm going to save all of the underdogs. In the meantime, I slowly but surely has lost a sense of dignity for myself, but yet I tell myself that this is me being strong and powerful, but yet I'm a doormat. And yet this is happening, but yet, oh, they don't mean it. And yet that is still happening. There is so many ways that we can really truly convince ourselves of these realities, and we can hold on to those stories, and we can reflect over here and see everything that was wrong there, but we can't see what's wrong right here. And what's wrong right here is often the things that are taking us furthest away from living as our most dignified self. So there is a shift and a change. There is a beautiful new journey. There is so much more, but this is what they just give me to give you. This was not my plan. What I was coming in with was, oh, I'm just going to come in today, and I feel like today I'm going to pull some cards. I feel like I'm going to show some cards, and this is what I'm going to give for the message. But yet, this is where we ended up. This is how I channel. It still appears to be Corrie, still appears to be me, but yet they're speaking through us. That's the expression of love. Right? And that's the divine expression, that when we open up this energy center through the throat, when we open up the fifth, and we open this up and we allow space, we relax in that energy, we relax and we allow the divine to come in and the divine to speak through us. And when the divine speaks through us, it may appear as our voice, but it doesn't mean that it's coming from us. Because if it was up to me today, it was up to Corrie, all of who I am in in my existence, in my human world where I am, I would be saying, F the world. I am mad. I am upset. I am disappointed. We've lost it on several homes in the past few days. It's felt defeating. It has felt very, it's felt so wrong. I have felt so wronged. I have felt everything that you could possibly imagine. I've had feelings around, but there's also in there, it's like this, I could, if I allowed the old self to come in that was not in the dignified self, is I would create beliefs around this. And the beliefs would have been such things as everything goes wrong, nothing ever goes right for me, blah, blah, blah. And that's not true. That's not a truth. A lot of things go right. A lot of things are going right. And that these are things that are just happening. The feelings I'm feeling are true, real, but they don't stay. They don't stay because they visit and then they leave, because I know the power of the influence they would have if you let them hang out for too long. And so it's not saying they're not real, and giving yourself time to be in those real energies, in that real feeling you're having in your body, the real experiences you're having, and then to be able to use the discernment to be able to catch and connect energy, but also to recognize feelings, also to recognize beliefs, is that once you get into the habit, once you start self-realizing and working with self-actualization, is that all of this is happening, but you can dissect the deeper truth. You put everything into context, and then you start to come into a truth that speaks, and it's like, this is life. This is happening. This is real. But there is also more realities. There's more things that are happening. And so find our way to our most dignified self means that we will not stay and exist in our resentment, our frustration, not in our true self. We integrate the shadow, and we recognize that we are not here to be saints. We are not here to be holy beings as in perfection, is that we are to be human. We're here to be imperfect, and that we can. And so sometimes the most dignified, the thing that you can do is to say F off and to move forward. It is to tell yourself a truth in the places of where you have been telling yourself a lie. It is to really look at how many stories that we're being told, and how many things that are created and creating, that are spreading and creating these beliefs that are not all truths. And it's to be able to see with divine eyes and through divine expression that not everything that we are holding on to really holds the truth that we thought it did. And when we take away the power, when we disempower those old so-called truths, those half-hearted truths, and we start to empower a deeper truth, is that we are all divine, we are all love, we are all loved. We are not always all love, but we are all loved, and we do have love, and that love is an action, and love is compassion in action, and where we are being compassionate and when we're not being compassionate. And so that's the message that they do have for us. Now I'm going to end today. I will bring you in a card, and I'm actually going to go to the angels, and I'm going to go to Archangel Michael, because Archangel Michael has been a massive influence in all of this energy. And so I'm going to bring in Archangel Michael, and with Radley Valentine's card. So kind of right back to where I began in becoming an angel card reader way back when. And so when I became an angel card reader, a certified angel card reader, and then I did the advanced certified angel card reading, it was well in the journey of being a healer. But we are here to keep evolving and to keep growing. And if we only stay in the one thing that we are if we only stay in the one thing that we are, that we became, and not move into more of becoming, right? If I had to only stay with just my Reiki and my card reading, and I still do it all, don't get me wrong, but if that was the only way I identified myself, and I didn't allow myself the opportunity to see more of who I was and what I was, and that there was more to the path, there was more ways that I would have to evolve and grow, then I would have never probably have found a greater sense of self, and I would have only lived by that identity and being identified by this specific way. And so it is like kind of branding yourself to one brand and telling yourself you can never be or do anything else. And that is definitely not the way that allows us to keep evolving and growing. But we can evolve and grow and still do all the things that we once were. Is we can be more than that. I don't know where that just came from, but that's what message I was just given to give you. And so the card that I pulled is the Seven of Water. And the Seven of Water is bringing a complex decision, the need to do research and stop procrastinating. See, notice how they're down in the sea and there's a dolphin. And then we have all of the 7 cups, and the 7 cups are all lit up. So there has all of the colors of, say, the energy centers, all parts for ourselves. And a part of the healing within the energy centers is the aspect to dive deep in and to recognize the energy center is just not this spinning little vortex of energy in the middle. Is there is like these tentacle energies that just like pathways, and the pathways are the way to these aspects of ourselves that when we break down the doors and we open up, is that we find out more about ourselves. We find out that we are so much more than we thought we were. There is more of our self. And so our journey is not to just to find purpose, it is to live on purpose. And when we learn to live on purpose, is that it does bring us into using spiritual courage, spiritual truth. It's all of the aspects that moves us into working with the universal laws. And so when we start looking at decisions, is that we don't have to have the answer to the decision. It's like, oh my God, I have to make this decision. It's like, no, it's not that we have to sometimes make a decision. It's that we have to stop living in the lie, or in the old way of thinking of how we can approach new. And by saying to ourselves sometimes, well, I feel depleted every time I'm doing this. I don't feel like I am living as my truth. I don't feel like I am totally content and happy. So maybe it's not that I have to have a solid yes to the to the decision, is that I have to stop doing the things. I have to stop doing the things that are in this present moment that are keeping me stuck in the old energy, keeping me like not being able to breathe. If I could just come up for air, if I could just shine a light upon this area, if I could just be honest with myself. And so sometimes we've got to be honest with ourselves, and that radical honesty will automatically just lead us to the decision. The decision is already made, and on a soul level, the decision has already been made. And because the decision was already made, all is required is for a human to move from one step into the next step, is to decide to make a change in how we approach things, how we perceive things, how we view things, and to do something a little bit differently. So if there's one thing you can do today, is stop procrastinating on even and having a hard conversation, and even communicating out a new truth in how you're showing up and what you're doing, whatever that is. There is a way. And so the complex decision doesn't always need an answer right now. It doesn't need you to become this sudden, like this, like hero in this moment and just say, that's it, I'm done. It's to say, there's something telling me that this has run its course, or no, I'm really seeing what's really happening here. Let me see. I have the courage. Give me the courage to see what's really happening. Give me the courage to see the role I play. Give me the courage. Give me the courage to tell myself a truth. Give me the courage. Give me the divine courage. Give me the spiritual courage to face what I need to face. and to see what I need to see. And when you can see what you were blinded to because you choose to be blinded to, then it's like you can no longer not see. And when you can no longer not see, when you can no longer deny, when you can no longer keep living in what once was, or keep living in the same old tradition because it just doesn't work anymore, well, the change begins to happen, because change is happening with or without you. And the change just happens, and the decision is already made. And so, because the decision was already made, what you're beginning to do is becoming the willing participant in the change that it has already been evolving. And so, there is that what's happening right now. I know that was a total lot. Couldn't you have just given me that an easier? I'm like, I know there was an easier way to have that conversation. I'm like, whoa, where did they just go with that? So 7 of water is, it's time to come up for air. And it is taking us to a pivotal turning point. You're at a turning point, and this part in the month is we are at a pivotal turning point in life. And so that was coming from a higher expression, bringing it down, bringing it into the micro instead of from the macro, bringing it from the divine language and bringing it down into human language is, it's changes here, whether we want it or not. And the most dignified thing that we can do is to tell ourselves a truth, to be honest with ourselves, and to look at what and where we are being depleted. Now, we are moving out of water season. We're moving out of Piscean energy. Now, we are moving into fire, but this whole year, and the theme of all of this energy coming in is we are moving from earth and water in the elements, and we are moving into air and fire. So we're moving to fire and air. We're moving into the time of fire and air and out of earth and water. And so it is a slow little journey that was happening, but now we're moving into the ace of air. And so we are in a fire, but because we have the big massive shift of the air energy as we move into the age of Aquarius energy, is that this is kind of where we're at an ending and a new beginning, because the new year in astrology, it begins in April. The 12th house is the house of Pisces. The first house is the house of Aries. So we're at the end and we're moving into the new year, the new beginning. And with that, we are also have been progressing into that age of Aquarius energy. And it's growing as the degrees are growing with that age of Aquarius as well. So with time, we kind of slip more and more into that journey. So we're moving into new beginnings, which brings us into some real Pegasus energy and this powerful influence. And so it is where we start to see the truth, and we start to see truths that we weren't seeing before or that we couldn't see before. There is massive deep awakenings happening within us. We are also seeing that kind of we're kind of seeing how holding on doesn't keep us from going through the challenges we need to go through. It keeps us stuck in the mud and procrastinating about having to go through the challenging, because we don't want to have to face the wrath of what happens when we step into the truth, and that it does bring us through a challenging moment. A new beginning is always a challenge. It is struggling. It is not easy. Things don't work out in the beginning. And then there just comes a moment of peace. And so when we make peace with what was, when we make peace with where we have been, and say, okay, and I got to make peace with this, that I have no choice. We have no choice. We have no choice. The new beginnings are happening with or without us. So we can stay over here pretending it's not happening, or we can allow it to happen. Right. And so there's all kinds of beautiful potential in this energy. The ace of air comes with so much wisdom. This brings us to our mind, to our imagination. It allows us to come into innovation, creation, and we are moving into a time of where we're coming into passion desires. What am I passionate about? What do I want to create? But there's still stagnant energy. So it's like, it's not going to all work out perfectly quite yet. It's going to take a little bit of time. And so we are going to be moving through into that April energy and getting into the, you know, kind of into the groove a little bit with this. But it's going to require a strong, strong foundation. And dignity is one of them. We are coming back into really finding our virtues and resolving our vices. And so our vices are our isms and our addictions, our angers, our unwarranted angers, of course, our old belief patterns, our old sense of selves. It's like, gotta leave that behind. It's not working. And we're moving into the lovers. And so Aries are the passionate leaders, and there's a passion to the leading. And I'm going to go back into that I story. And because I was an Aries, and you're always told the narrative and the story around, oh, well, Aries are the most selfish people. They're this, they're that. And I'm like, no, they are the most passionate people. And so because they are passionate and they do things with such passion, they also get the deepest disappointment. So they want to love everyone. They want everyone to be of love and light. They want all of that. And because reality shows a disappointment, it's like you can give your all to somebody, but you're not going to get your all back if someone doesn't have their all to give. And that comes back into the love. And so Aries reveals that. So Aries can really truly be tied into the power of love and leadership done in a way that is done from an I with a knowing of the we, that we're doing is that we work together, and we work better when we work together, is that it does bring about a passion. And so when we're passionate about something, there's a force. We want everyone to enjoy it. We want everyone to be a part of it. And we have to really recognize whether that's coming from, is that coming from my shadows, that coming from my fears, or is that coming from my truth? And so this is a major life event. And because at the end of the month, somehow in all of this energy, we're going to see a lot of major events unfold. We're going to see things that change our world. It's going to change our perspectives of the world. It's going to change our perspectives of humanity somehow. It's like a massive leveling up has to happen. And how it happens, how it unfolds, still to be known. But we are going to see the rising of the air, the winds, tornadoes, storms, hurricanes. That rises water as well. And when it stirs the water is, man, we see a lot, but dust bowls. I keep seeing dust balls, and dirt. And I'm like, there is a lot of volcano, a lot of tornado type, hurricane type of energy that I'm also seeing. And so love, obsessive love can be dangerous love, right? True love comes with a level of honesty. And so moving beyond obsessions and isms and OCDs, addictive patterns, these type of things, this is what the universe is, the universal energy. This is what the divine expression is trying to help us to resolve, so that we can stop looking in and telling ourselves that we need to be exactly like somebody else or where somebody is, but we start to find a more balanced sense of self and a more balance within our world and within our inner world, in our micro. And we start to be more content and at peace with where we are, and that we can still compete with ourselves. We can still be proud of ourselves. We can still build beautiful lives and beautiful worlds, and that not everyone has to become the king of the castle, that we are all king and queens of our own little world, and that we have the potential to be that powerful leader. And it's written right in my books, right in More Than Existent. Every leader is a follower, and every follower is a leader. Who's looking at you? Who's watching? Who's observing? And how are you showing up? And are you showing up and or existing in the little I, or are you moving closer to really seeing the power of the big I. And so, last card to validate this is the Six of Fire. Beyond the battle, this is where victory is unfolding. We're moving. We will come through this victorious in some way if we truly only fight the wars and the battles that we can fight within ourselves and do the things that we can really truly overcome. The rest is too big for us. And if it's too big for us, it is time to call in and ask for divine warrior energy, Archangel Michael, to come in, to cut the cords, to help us, our guardian angels, Archangel Zedekiel, Raziel, Archangel Raziel, to step in to help guide us through this. There is so much more. That's just a few. Archangel Gabriel, always pushing us forward. And so this good news is on its way. And as much as it's been challenging, I do believe there's good news. I do believe I'm holding on to that faith. I got on the faith train a long time ago, and I've said I'm not getting off. So I'm still on the faith train, even though I grumble and I complain about it in my human existence, and I get upset and I have little moments and I have little tantrums and I have little breakdowns. Faith is still there. And this is, you're going to be human. We are always going to be human. And that, the reward that we truly get is this sense of inner peace, inner knowing, inner sense of contentment. And when we find that sense of inner contentment, is that we stop feeling like we have to exist in survival mode, and we begin to move into thriving mode. And when we move into thriving mode, we start to build new worlds, new lives, new possibilities, and new opportunities. And so we are in the midst of kind of coming up for air while we still kind of travel through the rest of this energy that's going to move us through for another little bit yet. We're not done. And I do want to take a moment to wish my beautiful daughter a happy birthday tomorrow. I was in labor at this time 29 years ago. I was in labor, and I was so sad I didn't get to curl in the curling bonspiel that was on the weekend before, because I couldn't even bend over. And I always said she was coming before the curling bonspiel because I was going to curl. The ego was so big then. I'm curling, so she's going to be here before then. Yeah, no, even if she had arrived, I still would not have been curling if she had not arrived earlier. But she didn't arrive in my time. She arrived in divine time. And she arrived in the perfect time for her. And so now, it's like 29 years later. And that gift keeps on giving, and the love and all that comes with that. And so she is what reminded me of the value of me. And that to see who I was through the eyes of learning to be a better mother, to be a better woman, to really resolve and do my healing work so that I could be the mother she would need, and so that we could break those cycles and make some of those changes. And that is not a pointing of a fingers to anyone else. We only know what we know. And the more we begin to know, the more that we can begin to make changes if we so choose. And so Reiki was the beginning of that journey for me, and finding my way into really, truly understanding we always honor where we have been, and know that this is a part of what takes us on the path and on the journey. And yeah, so my beautiful 29-year-old daughter tomorrow is now walking her path and her journey and living her life and doing what she needs to do for her. So I'm proud. I'm like this proud mother. And she taught me to love myself so that I could be everything I needed to be for her and for my grandchildren. I send you all so much love, and happy birthday to all of my end of Pisces season babies, and to all of you early April babies. Happy birthday to you as well. I'm an April Fool's baby. If you'd like to read my books or purchase my cards, and I am Canadian, for all of my Canadian people who are all talking about out there shopping Canadian, buying Canadian, I still shop on Amazon. But if you are, it's like, if you truly want to support Canadian artists, Canadian people, if you want to support homegrown, not just Canadian, I don't want to just include Canadian. If you want to shop and support homegrown, the everyday people who are out there doing the hard work, doing the things, self-publishing, finding our way to get our products and our what we love out there, and and not making very much money from those things, but just wanting to get it out and still keep it at prices that are affordable, then I invite you to support us, support our businesses, support what we do in all ways, whether it is in spiritual, whether it's in home-based businesses where people are making, creating their own stuff and doing their own work. It's truly is it's important. It's the things that keep the world going around. Small business, everyday people. The everyday people are the people that truly are the ones that there's more everyday people than there are in that little spectrum up there, and nothing wrong with the people that are up there either. But we're here, and we're all here to support each other. We're here to love each other, and we're here not to get caught in the political climate and the political stuff. We're here to support and be there for each other, whether we're Canadian, whether we're American, whether we're UK, whether we are like Africa, anywhere, any place in the world where that is filled with everyday people. We are all more alike than we are different. Society, social media, political parties tries to tell us that we are different than that, and that we should all be divided. No, we're not. We are all so much more alike than we are different. So supporting each other, it's what's important. But you can go to my website, go to CorrieThorne.Cameron.com. It's all in the YouTube information down below in the description. You can find all the work. You can also go to the Academy, which is the More Than Existing Academy of Higher Consciousness, where myself and my dear soul sister, Lisa Richard, we have created a beautiful school that is filled with so much content. There's some free things in there. There's also some paid programs, and all of the yearly energy forecasts for all the zodiac signs are all in there as well. They're not for each individual zodiac sign. They're not on YouTube this year. I decided to pull back and make it part of my paid offers. And so you can support through the Academy, you can support myself, and you can support Lisa. And yeah, and so also still keeping doing all the live videos and stuff when we have time as well. That's go to mteacademy.ca. All the information is below. I send you so much love. Have a beautiful week.